All right.
Okay, so this is our Sprint 1 review meeting. We've been in the development phase for 2 weeks now and doing a lot of work, and we're here to present that to you. What we're going to do today is we're going to review work that we've done and what has not been completed, and then we're also going to present that work to you, which I'll turn that over to Larry in just a moment, and then we're going to all celebrate. Um, I'd just like to point out we will save questions for the end of the demo. And for folks on the UMN side, please document your questions so that we can pass those over to John and Steve and make sure we capture everything going into the next sprints. Really quick, I just wanted to give everyone a schedule overview. This is what we're referring to as phase one. As you can see, the arrow I have highlighting, we're currently in week 8 of this project, but this is the second week or ending the sprint. Each sprint is 2 weeks long, and you can see some of what we're starting on here. We're migrating the grad site and starting your base install. Now, at the beginning of each sprint, we create what's referred to as user stories, just basically capturing requirements for the overall project. And we basically put in the most important user stories first, or in that current backlog, and then start working from there. And we'll do that process every 2 weeks going forward. Now, today what we're here to show you is this is just the high level overview. Larry Garfield, in just a moment, I'm going to turn it over to him, and he's actually going to perform the demo. But this is the high level. We also wanted to document the ticket numbers in Redmine. Some of you who are on the project team have access to Redmine, so if you need to go in for more details later, we can, you can just look at these ticket numbers specifically. But we're going to go over some of the site installation. We're going to cover some of the content, especially content types and fields. And then we're also going to go through and look at creating some multimedia, adding metadata, and Larry's going to walk you through some of the content layout options as well. So without much further ado, Larry, are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Okay, I'm going to change you to the presenter.
Okay.
And then everyone should see your screen.
Okay. So you should see a very wide Mac desktop with 2 browser windows showing the same page. If you see that, great. If not, speak up because that's what you're supposed to see.
Looks good.
Okay. Is the text all readable?
It's a little small.
All right, let me see if we can bump that up before we actually do anything here. All right, how's that? Bit better?
Better.
Okay. So, we're going to walk through today the basic content editing and page layout process. Before we get started, I will give a couple of caveats. First of all, this is only Sprint 1, so some things will still appear kind of rough. There may be some error messages in a few places. That's to be expected. Those will get addressed in later sprints. I will also point out this is a live demo, therefore I will apologize in advance for when things go wrong. Not if, but when, because I'm sure something's going to go wrong at some point. So please bear with me when that happens. And as Tom said, please hold your questions to the end because you do have quite a bit to get through here. So first of all, this is a fresh install of the site, site we're building. At the moment, it's still just using the default Drupal theming and so forth. Those of you who have used Drupal 7 before, this thing up at the top may appear a bit weird to you. This is a backport, actually, of the menu toolbar that is in Drupal 8. So we're not looking at Drupal 8, we are looking at Drupal 7, but just wanted to point this out. This is a new version of the toolbar. It gives you the ability to switch this panel from the top to the side, turn it off if you want to, and it is also responsive. So if we turn that off and shrink the window, you'll notice it shrinks down to just icons, and then when you pop stuff open, it handles that well, and so on. So that's the first piece there. So on this browser, I'm logged in as a content contributor. Content contributors only have limited access to the site. I'm getting some kind of feedback from somebody.
It's whoever's on the phone.
Yeah, that sounds like an awesome UFO, but we're building websites. So as a content contributor, I can go to shortcuts and add content. And I've got a couple of different pieces of content that I can create. Let's start with a general page. And we'll call this page About. Path Slug is a feature we're using to control the URLs. It is the final portion of the path URL. The rest will be based on various rules hard-coded into the system. So in this case, we'll just call it About. The body text is just some text, whatever. And you do have the ability to control the styling here and so forth. Great, wonderful. And the additional content fields you will generally not use. That is specifically for content migration. The idea here is that when migrating content from content into Drupal, fields we don't know how to map will end up in this field, and it'll be multi-value, and you'll be able to then pick pieces out of there and figure out case by case, does that go on a sidebar, should that be part of the body, and so forth. This field will never ever be shown to users, so you'll never be entering content into it, just pulling stuff out. And then you can later on just delete it, and if you're using a site where you're not going to do a migration, you're just going to start over, which is fine, then this field is vestigial and you don't bother with it at all. There are some fields that are broken off to be separate. So in this case, we have a pull quote that's a separate field that can be used. And this, as the description says, is the quote that you pull out from the content to highlight some particular part of the article. So let's pull that part out to emphasize it. You'll also notice under publishing options, we can set its state to either draft or needs review. This is part of the workflow system that is incorporated into the site. The idea being in draft, the article is not going to be public yet. People will not be able to see it except for site administrators and the person editing it. That way you can work on something, save it, come back to it tomorrow, work on it again, and so forth. When you set it to needs review, that marks it for a senior editor to say, okay, I'm supposed to come look at this and approve it. So people who just have the contributor access can create content, they can edit stuff, but they can't change the production live site that people will actually see. You can put in a log message if appropriate. And, okay, so here's our page. You'll notice our body content is over here. That pull quote we have set up to show over on the left side instead. We can edit the draft again if necessary. We automatically have some social linking stuff here. If you want to tweet an article or Facebook like it or plus it or whatever you're going to do. At the moment, this is configured to show on all content types. If it only makes sense on certain content types, it's really easy to change and show only on certain types of content. So if you don't want people tweeting your faculty pages, that's easy to change. Now let's come over here. And on this site, we're logged in as a senior editor. The username shows up here. I just created usernames that match up with the role to make it easier to keep track of at the moment. And if we go to the content page, we can see that About page. It's a general page. It is not currently published, so most people won't be able to see it. But as a senior editor, we can. And we can look it over, say, all right, cool. Okay, you did a good job, congratulations. And notice we have more options down here now. First of all, we can change it to published and include a log message that, just tracks, okay, I published it on this date and here's why, or here's, I rejected it and said I'm pushing it back down to draft for some reason with some comments. Say, hey, fix this before I'll publish it, and whatever. We can also put it into the menu. So in this case, we're going to provide a menu link. We're going to put it into the main menu, and we're going to give it a title of About. And just making sure I'm catching everything in my notes here. Yeah. And save that. And now this content is public. You'll notice it is in our main menu now. The URL is based on that slug that we put in, so it's just About, because it's at the top level of the menu. And now anyone in the world can view this page. Come back over as a contributor. Let's say I want to edit something, and I'm going to create a new revision. In this case, I'm going to say,
Hi. How are you? Oh. Hi. Well, hello.
Who's talking there? Okay. We're going to add some more content and set this to needs review. And save that.
Can I ask that everyone except for Larry put their their speakers on mute, or their microphone on mute?
Thanks, John.
Yeah. Thank you. And you'll notice it looks like that change didn't actually do anything. That's because this is a forward draft. So we can view the latest draft, and that has the new content in it. But what is publicly available is still the old version. As a senior editor, I can now go in and see that and edit that latest draft, which has the new content, and say, all right, this is good to go. I like these changes. And boom, now this new revised version is public. Okay, so that's the basic content workflow. Next up, you'll notice as a senior editor, but only as a senior editor, we get these extra buttons down here at the bottom. So we're going to click this one, customize this page, and we get kind of a skeletal outline of this page. This page is divided into 3 regions, a header region, a content region, and a sidebar. And each of these different fields that we just filled out shows up differently in here. And by default, all general pages will have the same structure. So that pull quote shows up here on the left. If we filled out the related content field, it would show up here. There's a navigation block here that right now there's not enough content in the site for it to do anything, so it's just there. But once content gets filled in, it would start to appear. Here's our body, and so forth. We can also customize this page just for this node. So all general pages start looking like this. Let's go and add some additional content. So I'm going to add an image, just an arbitrary image to the side here. And I'm going to say, let's upload this image that I just have lying around. Then save that. And now this page has this extra graphic showing up on the left. Now, important thing to note here is that this image is not part of the content of this page. That's a very important distinction that I want to make sure we get across, that there's a distinction between the content of a page or a piece of content in the system and then its presentation. the node itself, the piece of content, is the thing you edit from the Edit tab. You click here. This is the content of this object in the system. What you customize in here is custom presentation. So anything you place here, for example, would not show up in an RSS feed if it was a news item, for example. This is purely decorative information, not part of the actual content of the page. They'll make more sense when we're dealing with, say, faculty or news items, I think. All right. Next up, let's go back over to our contributor account, and we'll add some more content, and we'll add a faculty member. And you'll notice here we get a different set of fields, but there's no title field. Instead, we can fill out the person's first and last name, a short description of the person, this would be used on other pages. This won't actually show up on the page, on the faculty members page. This is used for listing of faculty elsewhere. What shows up on the actual page is the bio. This is a free text field, so you can put in whatever information you want. We have it pre-filled with some headers that are kind of recommended guidelines, but they're by no means required. So we can fill out those that make sense. And let's get rid of the rest of these because I don't have any information for them. Great. We can upload a picture in either portrait or landscape mode. The system will not pick one or the other magically. You have to pick which one you're going to use. Let's by default use portrait. And let's upload a file we've got locally of me. We can pick next. And we have the opportunity to fill in alt text and title text for this picture. So alt text. Can be the same, can be different, depends on the image. And email. Phone number. These will actually auto-validate. So if we put in an invalid email address, something that doesn't have an @ sign in it or something, it will warn us. And the phone number is also designed to check for valid US phone numbers. So my normal example for putting in a phone number is that. That's not actually a legal phone number in the US, so let's put in some other random number. And we can put in an address, so there we go. So this is where Palantir is based. Most content also has this related content field. This is for references to other pieces of content on the site that are published that are not really part of the content itself, not part of the faculty member, but are other things that you might want to cross-link to. These will show up on the display. Good use case here would be you have a news item about some great new event, some seminar that's happening, being presented by a certain faculty member or a certain team of faculty, and so you have a related content link to those faculty members. And then from that news item, you can just click a link and go, oh, this is Dr. Garfield, and so forth. So let's link to the About page, just to kind of show how it works. And again, I can't actually publish it, I can only set it for needs review. And this is how all content is set up at the moment. And you'll note it's a completely different layout here because it's a different content type. And the URL, in this case, is faculty/Larry-Garfield. The page title is Larry Garfield. That's dynamically generated off of that separate first name and last name. If you wanted to do it the other way around, so Garfield, Larry is the title, or Garfield-Larry is the URL, that can be configured on a site-by-site basis. This is just the default we went with. So let's go and publish that article, or that faculty member. Looks good, looks good, looks good. And publish that. And we're good to go. So notice in this case, the address is showing up here, followed by the email address, followed by the phone number. The body is showing down here. The picture we're showing over on the right, and it's been scaled down to a smaller size. Drupal has the ability to scale images to a variety of different sizes. We have it configured to this size at the moment. If a different default size makes sense, that is easily changeable once we know what that size should be. Related content we have showing up over in the sidebar. This again, a different default can be set up for this per site, that's fine. And that's all there is to it for faculty. Staff work almost exactly the same way. I think their fields are almost identical. There's maybe one or two differences, but it's very similar. We're not going to go through those particularly. One thing I want to note here is we do have support for custom meta tags. So out of the box, for those of you who can read HTML, there's a lot of different meta tags being created. And these are created automatically by Drupal.
Larry,
So, yes?
it's a little small. Can you make it just a little bigger for us to just check it out?
Let's find out. Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay. So, different web services and third parties care about different meta tags. So what we have set up right now is the system will generate the common tags for two vocabularies. One is Facebook's Open Graph, and the other is Dublin Core, which is an international standard for bibliographic information, essentially. So in this case, the Dublin Core term type is text for this page. The creator is the username of the user that created it. The creation date, according to Dublin Core, is the created timestamp out of Drupal. The identifier is the URL. This is just default Dublin Core behavior. For the Facebook fans in the crowd, Open Graph URL, the site name is auto-generated. The title is the content title. The description is pulled out of that short description field that we use, that teaser field. So this string, you'll notice, doesn't show up on the page anywhere, but it is used up here in the meta tags, and it can also be used when creating lists of people elsewhere. The Open Graph type is set to profile, which makes sense for a person. If you are a senior editor, then let's bring this back down a bit. Then you can edit those on a per node basis if you want to. So you'll notice down here we have access to this extra meta tags pane. So in this case, that lead field is what the lead field is the short description. That's its internal name. So we can say use whatever that is, or we can customize it and say something else entirely. For this one particular node, this one particular faculty member has a totally different description as far as the meta tags go. If you want to edit any of the Open Graph or Dublin Core information, you can do that in here. My guess is in the 99% case, you won't need to bother. The defaults will be fine. If there are specific cases where you need to do something custom, here's where you can do it. If you want to know what these tokens are you can use, click Browse Available Tokens, and you get this pop-up where you can see all of the various possibilities. All right. And that is most of content. If we go to add content as a senior editor, you'll notice a slight difference from a normal user. There's this other content type called a landing page that a senior editor has access to, contributors don't. A landing page is a content type that we've set up that has no fields of its own. It's really only there so that you can use that customize functionality. And I'm doing scare quotes around customize there. You can't see that because I don't have a camera on. Anyway. So there's really nothing here except for the title and the path slug. So let's call this history. And we'll put this in the menu as a child of the About page. So we're building up our hierarchy for the site this way. Things like faculty or news don't make sense as part of that hierarchy. They'll be handled automatically, but landing pages and general pages do. So let's go ahead and publish that. And you'll notice there is really nothing here. But we are getting this sidebar here because you'll notice the URL is about history. Why is it about history? Because history is the slug we used on this particular page, and about is the path of its parent in the menu. So we get a breadcrumb that is about or home about history. We get a path that is site about history. And we get this secondary navigation on the side here that shows all children of about. So you'd see history, and if there were more pages here, you would see more. It's not very pretty right now. That's because we haven't gotten to the theming parts yet. But this way, you can just create content and organize it, and the navigation just kind of happens on its own. And it just happens for you off of that menu. To actually put something on this page now, we can click Customize. And you notice we have the same layout, there's just really nothing in it. So let's go ahead and add something. In this case, we're going to add a view pane. So this pop-up lets you select various kinds of things to add. These items here are all kind of one-off, random piece of text, random image, and so forth. We can also add a view pane. Views is Drupal terminology for dynamically created list of stuff. And what stuff it is depends on the view you've created. We have a couple built out by default that should cover the majority use case. Individual sites can build more if necessary. So let's add a faculty list. And we get a nice preview here. And we want to show, we don't have the image set to scale down on this page, so it's going to be a bit big, but it will be set to scale down. So let's show the portrait picture. We're not going to show a landscape picture here. We don't need that short description. We don't need the address, just email and phone. So title, email, phone, that's all we're going to show. And we're going to show up to 20 at a time, and it is going to be paged. So if I had 50 people in my department, I get 3 pages worth of people in a list. At the moment, we just have the one person. Save that. And now we have a page that is dynamically generating a list of faculty. If we add more faculty to the system, they will just magically show up in this list in the correct order as defined by that view. And that is how you'd set up a site for, hey, I want my news listing here, I want my faculty list over here. You create a landing page and you place one of those views into it. And we'll have some of these built up by default in the default install. We just don't have them in place yet. Another option is we can change the layout. The system comes with a variety of different layouts you can use. Some of them are kind of exotic, some are kind of boring. In this case, let's switch it to a 3-column layout. And these are the clusters of existing content we've got. So let's move that sidebar, we'll leave it in the left sidebar, and the main content stuff we'll move over here and save that. And notice now we've got a 3-column layout with the center column just kind of squished because there's stuff that is supposed to be on the other sides. So let's customize that, and you'll notice we now have extra regions in which to put stuff. So let's add some more stuff. Let's add a video here. So we go over here, add video. And in most cases, we're going to put video on YouTube or on Vimeo. And again, we can turn off Vimeo if you don't like Vimeo for some reason. But let's grab some completely random, arbitrary video off of YouTube that we're going to reference. That looks familiar. How about that? I can save that. And let's put this one below the image, or below the view, because I'm way more important than that, of course. And now we've got that view, and we've got that video, and we can play it right in place. And I suspect you've all seen this before, so we won't run through the whole thing. So you can do that on a landing page. You can also do that on any arbitrary page too, if you're going to customize it. So let's customize the layout of this page, and we'll add content to the sidebar, and we'll add a video. And in this case, we'll just go through our library, because we'll already have images or videos that we've uploaded somewhere, and we can just reuse them. We don't need to create a new record for them. We don't need to have a second copy of the file on disk. We can just reference that existing video. And we can also filter them and show just content of certain type, or assets of certain type, sort by when it was uploaded, or just popular stuff, and so forth. So let's use that same video. And we've put that into the sidebar. And let's put the image up higher. Save. And here's our video. And you can do that with video, with images, with anything that's been uploaded as part of Drupal's media library in the system. You can do that. Notice this video, of course, is not being downloaded to the server. It's still living on YouTube. It's playing off of YouTube. All Drupal is recording is a reference to it. Let's also go into the body, and you can place the same information in the body. Now, whether or not that's a good idea depends on what you're doing. If you want this image or this video to be part of the primary content of this object, then you might want to do it here. If it's purely presentational, just to jazz up the look and feel of the site, you want to do it the other way. But you can select media to add. So we can do that same video again and put that into the body. And display, let's show it small instead of its original size. That's way too small, okay. And we can also put in an image, and let's reuse that picture of me because it's all about me. We can customize the alt text if we want to. Let's play this only at quarter size. So that's getting scaled down, and we can change the alignment or put text around it. And you can tell I have wonderful, wonderful graphic design skills, as you can see by this page. And now we've got, okay, we just had that one set up as a thumbnail, but we've got the image, we've got text next to it, and so forth. We can keep going back and editing the content to our heart's content to get what we want out of it. And that concludes our demo for the day. At this point, I will throw it open for questions, so go ahead and unmute, and someone want to curate questions or just fire it away? I'm easy.
Got a couple about validation stuff.
Okay.
For email addresses, are you doing simple validation or full validation to the RFC?
I don't think it's doing full RFC validation. It's doing kind of simple validation. Full RFC validation, the regex for that is about a page long. That's functionality that's built into the appropriate Drupal module, so I'm not sure exactly how detailed it's getting with that. But I've never had a common email address I use that it didn't like for some reason. It's been fairly reliable.
I've found reliably that sites don't seem to do well at supporting pluses to separate and do auto-filing or spam tagging of email addresses. That would be one thing I think would be good to have in there.
Well, let's find out. So I mean, one of the advantages of using the email field is that it auto-links like this. It also, I didn't show this before. Let's see if I can show it here. Oh, of course it's not going to work. Okay, I can't find the field right now, but
Script obfuscation.
yeah, it does auto obfuscation. That's part of the configuration that we've set up. But let's see what happens with plus signs and such. I'm not actually sure offhand. Cool. It handles it.
Excellent. And then for validation, why only U.S. phone numbers? Or is that an internal question for us?
I'm not certain off the top of my head if the module handles non-US. I think US is the default. And if you have some non-US phone numbers, I'm not aware of that. So if that's a use case that you need to support, let us know and we'll look into that.
Okay, yeah, we'll look into that.
Mm-hmm.
And then was there any validation for addresses, like using the Melissa data database?
Sorry, the what database?
Melissa data?
I'm not familiar with that. Is that a legal address validation service?
Yeah.
There's nothing like that at the moment.
Okay.
For right now, it's just capturing it as discrete strings. Once it's in that format, this is not on the roadmap at the moment, but individual sites could potentially do like Google integration and get addresses out of that. I can't see a use case for that necessarily on this site, but that's the value of having that structured data, because you could do that sort of thing if there's a reason to do so. So yeah, at the moment, I think addresses are just structured strings.
And Larry, to go back to the phone number for a second, I did confirm that we could configure it for other non-US phone numbers, so it's still a question to the university if that's something we need to support. We just put in a default setting of US only.
There you go.
Okay. And then I suppose it's also a question for us, do we need to support, is there a use case for the university to support international ad?
That's another question. Yeah, the system is reasonably flexible. So if there's a use case you need to support, let us know, and we'll see if that's feasible and straightforward to do. And again, a lot of that could also vary by departments if necessary.
For names, UTF-8, so accents and character or non-ASCII characters will be handled.
Everything is UTF-8 in Drupal. Yeah, so I've pasted Chinese characters into Drupal before, and it's handled it just fine. The only concern point would be if you're pasting out of Microsoft Word, because Word is not UTF-8, and sometimes that works well and sometimes it doesn't. I believe, do we have the paste from Word capability enabled? Yes, so if you're coming from Word, you can use the paste from Word function, and the system will attempt to clean up the content that Word spits out, which may or may not be successful depending on the content. There's unfortunately only so much we can do in that regard, and Word's HTML generation is limited.
Or is it the rate at which Microsoft creates them?
Other questions?
Larry, I've got a question. When you were selecting the list of multimedia pictures and video, there was a library tab there, and then it showed a list of different media that you have. Is that specific just to you as a role there, or is that for the site, or who can see or access those images and videos?
I believe by default that is site-wide. So it's a collection per Drupal instance per unit.
That's correct.
And if you're going to have a lot of content there are ways to further categorize that and tag it and create categories within your images. For the moment, we decided that wasn't worth the effort to do. But if that is something that's going to be very common, we can look into that. And that's also where you would plug in the ability to, for example, reference images from Flickr or some other third-party image source. Drupal's media handling with the right modules is reasonably robust, and it should be able to handle remote content like that, just like it does YouTube and Vimeo.
Okay, thanks, Larry.
Going back to paste from Word for a moment, understanding that the format might not come out correctly, is it at a state where, sorry, let me back up. Is paste from Word at this point good enough that even if it doesn't look correct, it's not going to be pasting Word styles, style tags, anything like that into the body documents?
What it tries to do is strip out the word HTML cruft.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't actually looked into it recently myself to see exactly how good of a job it does. I would assume it does a decent job at this point. I would not be super worried about it because Drupal actually does filter unrecognized tags.
Right.
So, if we put tags that the system doesn't recognize or allow in a field that it's not permitted, then Drupal will filter that sort of thing out. It'll still be in the database, but it will get filtered. So that's just standard Drupal functionality.
Okay, and I believe with Word, when some of that code does come through, it's predominantly style tags. I take it we're not allowing the style tag in our body elements, anything like that?
Pretty sure we're not.
Thank you.
For the faculty page, for that template for the bio field,
mm-hmm.
how do you change that one, and how widely is the change scoped? How do you change the default template for it?
So that would be scoped per site, and that's just in the content type itself. So I'm going to bring over another window right quick. So this is what the administrator would see. They have even more power on the site. And this kind of peek behind the scenes. You can modify the content types themselves. And if we go into Manage Fields and Bio and edit that, it's just the default value here. So on a particular site, if you never have awards for whatever reason, you delete that part of it, hit save, and then any new faculty created after that will not have that default text. All it is just that default HTML that's in the field that the inline editor then, or the WYSIWYG editor can then process. So if you want to do something completely different on a given site, you totally can, and that's this would affect all new faculty nodes on this particular site. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Then one other I noticed, as the senior editor,
mm-hmm.
we looked at a list of things that were in the needs review state. There was a
mm-hmm.
new icon that showed up.
So this is actually not, there will be a separate display for things specifically that need review. This is not need review, this is all content on the site at the moment.
Okay.
And something that Drupal just does by default when you show the title of a node is it will show new or updated. What those mean are, new is the current user that is logged in, this node has been created since this user viewed it. So you have not viewed this node before. You have not gone to that node page and viewed it in your browser. Updated similarly means this node has been edited since the last time you viewed it in your browser. If you're looking for a view of, here's things that are in needs review and have been updated since a week ago or something like that, that would be a different display that isn't in here yet, but will be later.
Okay, excellent.
Other questions, or can I hand this back over to Tom?
For the layout on the history page, I'm wondering, maybe that's not showing it anymore. Maybe it was a different page. At some point, it looked like the social media stuff had rolled up, like next to the picture rather than.
I think that's what you mean?
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, we haven't really done anything in terms of styling and alignment yet, so that's the kind of stuff we will make sure doesn't happen normally.
Excellent.
If there's no other questions, then Tom, if you want to steal the screen back, I'm not entirely sure how to do that.
Okay, I'll take it. Okay, can everyone see the slide deck again?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, great. Thanks, Larry. That was great. Also, some things you did not see there, but some items that were completed during the sprint that included part of the base installation and some of the modules. We didn't really want to, see you sitting there, watching something install. So, but anyway, that was some of the work we completed, and then there were also a few items that did not make it in that we really wanted to, and most of that stemmed around some of the profile optional features, and really for the most part it just came down to some requirements, or some dependencies came up that we weren't anticipating, and then it just became a time issue more than anything. But we do want to point out these things, they're still in the backlog. That means they move on. They'll likely go into the next sprint and be completed there. So these are just things that,
if I can clarify, the idea there is not all sites are going to need faculty. Not all sites are going to need news. So as part of the install process, we want to set it up so you can decide, all right, I'm going to enable faculty, or I'm going to enable staff, or not. So the Office of Development doesn't have faculty, so they will not turn that piece on. The ability to turn individual pieces on or off is what we're talking about here. That's not yet completed.
Okay, great. And I just wanted to kind of quantify this for everyone. On this sprint, we started with approximately 40 user stories, and that included over 90 related tasks that we had defined. So it was quite a bit of work, a lot of effort. And so, like I say, we're still going forward. Whoops. I have lost control of my slide deck here. Let me get back to the end where we can get to the going forward part. There. Going forward, basically what we're going to do is we just need to update user stories with some of the questions. John and Steve, any information that was derived out of the demo, we can start getting that logged as needed. For any bugs that we've identified on our side, during Larry's demo or just in our QA process, we'll put those in. Some of the UMN team, you have access to our ticketing system, Redmine, so that's where obviously all that stuff will go. We are scheduled for sprint planning on Monday, and we'll start this again and be back here 2 weeks from now, basically going through the same process and showing you how the site is evolving. So at that point, I think we're good. And I would just like to say, on behalf of our team, thank you to the UMN team. You guys are great to work with, and I mean that for everybody at UMN, and especially the folks you see on this screen. John and Steve, these guys filling the product owner roles in the project, that's a big deal. That means a lot of meetings, updating a lot of tickets, and providing us a lot of clarity and the business case for what you guys are needing. So Ryan DeBaker, great job on content migration and all the scripts and the responsiveness, and the same with Christina and Jim Hart and David doing all the design work and everything, getting us that right here at the deadline for getting that into the next sprint, I believe. So again, we're grateful to be working with you guys, and we're looking forward to the next sprint. Did anyone else have anything from our team or on the UMN side?
See you again in 2 weeks.
And we're good. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Great.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good one.
For 1 hour.